Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot, and today I am sharing with you a peek at the first three issues of the Total Tarot series, which is a magazine partwork that's available in the UK. So if you're not in the UK, I'm sorry, I don't think this is available internationally at the moment. Now, this is not sponsored. I just knew some people were curious about this and I wanted to share with you what I've got with the first three issues. I don't think I'm going to be continuing to buy this series, but I was excited to see this come out in the shop. So this was available in my local supermarket magazine section, and it is a magazine which is all about tarot. So I was quite excited to see this because I guess it implies that tarot is becoming a bit more mainstream. And for me, there are a lot of positives to that. I'm certainly not a person who thinks that tarot is like something, like an esoteric gatekeeper of tarot that it should be kept secret. No, that's not my thing at all. I love the fact that tarot maybe is becoming a bit more mainstream so that it might be easier to be open about an interest in tarot with people and talk about it with people, and people having a bit more understanding of what tarot is. So with that said, I was pretty excited to see this pop up in the supermarket. But as I say, I don't think I am going to keep collecting it. I think this is probably a great series for total beginners, and if I had come across something like this when I was 18, I would have lapped it up. I probably wouldn't have been able to afford to buy them all then, but as a beginner to tarot, I think this is a pretty good series. So if you're in the UK and you're new to tarot, then I think it is actually pretty good. But because I have a reasonable library now of tarot books, the content of this series about tarot is a little bit more simplistic than what I would have in, say, some of the tarot references books that I own. I mean, I don't have loads of books. I maybe have about between 5 and 10 tarot books, but the content of those books I think is a bit more complex than this, and if I was continuing to buy the series, I might be just doubling up on some of the information that I already have. Anyway, you're like, why are you still talking? Show me the magazine. Okay, so the magazine comes in this really nicely presented. There are some nice ideas. So this is the first issue telling you like what tarot is. I felt like it sort of repeats itself a little bit in some of those general areas. So then we have an introduction to the major arcana. So you can see it gives like keywords. So sort of like a little white book. This first issue gives keywords for the majors and keywords for all of the minor arcana. So a really good starting off point, I guess. I probably don't still read tarot in this way after having worked with the cards for over 20 years. So, that whole style of reading where, you look up your card. So the 10 of Swords is obsession, block, sorrow, tears, desolation, emptiness, fear, sadness, ending. I remember as a beginner reader finding those types of little white books a bit difficult to navigate, like which one of these words is relevant to this particular reading. But I guess it's where you start, right? So then there's a bit of an explanation about what is a tarot spread. And then each issue gives like a new spread to try. So it's a 1-card spread in the first issue. There's a bit of background on the Golden Art Nouveau tarot, which I'll show you in a minute why that is. And then at the back of the issue, there is like a larger layout on the Fool. And one of the things I like about the way they approach this, because they do the exact same thing in each issue. So at the back of the magazine, there's like the 4-page spread on the Magician. This is how I approach the study of tarot. Like if I was really doing a deep dive into a card, I'd take out the Rider-Waite-Smith version first of all and look at the symbols. And I can't remember the name of the book, but it's a reference guide that breaks down every symbol in the image and what it means. But I've been known to Google like what's the symbology of an iris, that kind of thing, or a lily, sorry, as that is. I've been known to do that, by using Google for a bit of research to break down the symbols. But they've done that sort of on a basic level here. And then they've also included like a lot of different versions of that particular card. So you can see the way other artists have imagined that particular card. And it breaks it down as well about like how would you apply it to your personal life in a divinatory reading or like a psychological kind of soul path type reading. It references reversals. So the way they've broken down a card here at the end, the card in detail section, that's exactly how I would study a card myself. So I like that approach. But again, the content's just a little bit simpler than what I maybe might be doing in my own study with the books that I've got. And then, you know, how to phrase a question for a tarot reading. And then at the back they have this glossary of tarot terms, which is another good idea. And then, so there's A, B in the first edition, and then, or first issue, and then it goes C into D. And the third issue has like E, F. So you get the idea. It has a glossary. And at the end, one of the things I like at the end of the magazine, it's got like tips for how to move on your study. So this third edition is focused on the High Priestess. So, you know, at the end they're saying, you know, don't forget to study the High Priestess card. Try using this new spread, which in this magazine is the Golden Crown spread. Look into the Minor Arcana, which is covered in the magazine. So it kind of gives you a bit of a breakdown of what's been in the magazine and what you should have a go at looking at. I mean, some of the things, like there's this article in the third magazine about the history of tarot. Again, it's pretty basic stuff, but as a beginner, I think it would be really good. The other thing is some of the meanings, again, it just sort of goes a bit, I guess they're keeping it pretty traditional as an introductory magazine. So like there we have a numerological breakdown of the tarot, like 1s are beginnings, 2s are choices. You know, this numerology isn't exactly the numerology I would use, but again, I've had years to think about that and look at different sources and apply, you know, my own interpretation. The other thing that I was a bit surprised they included is a bit sort of the old-fashioned interpretation of the court cards where, you know, like a knight is a young man and a queen is the only woman, and wands means red hair and fair skin, and cups means blonde hair and fair skin. You know, it's really kind of old hat way of looking at the courts. Although I was pleased then to read on that they explain that that's not the best way to read the court cards, and then suggest that each court is used for a different kind of type of action, like learning for knaves or pages, control for kings, you know, so which I think is a better approach, although again, not exactly the approach I would use, but as a starting out idea, I guess it's not so bad. And they've suggested, court cards suggest a strategy for dealing with a situation, which I thought was an interesting approach. So they've sort of took on the more traditional old-fashioned ideas, I guess, and then moved it into a more modern interpretation, which isn't so bad. So the magazines, yeah, they're nicely produced, but as for a beginner tarot reading, I think they're great. For a more seasoned tarot reader, maybe, you know, you'd be looking for a bit more depth or nuance perhaps than what this offers, but it's not bad. I'm planning to pass these magazines on to a friend of mine who's just starting out learning tarot, and I think she'll get a lot of value out of them. But I don't feel the need to collect the whole series for myself for a kind of tarot library, if you know what I mean, because I have, as I say, other books that do that. But the other thing that with this series is the magazines come with some free gifts. Well, they're not free, you pay for them. The magazine's not cheap. So the first edition was $1.99, and then I think the second issue was $3.99, and then I think the standard price is $6.99 a month, so that's like, or an issue, so that's £7 an issue, and I think they're either weekly or fortnightly, so it certainly would add up in price if you were getting all of them. So with the first issue, you got the Golden Tarot Art Nouveau. Now this is not a deck that I already have, and it wasn't one that was really on my radar as one that I wanted. Unfortunately, they don't give you the full deck with the first issue. So, and all I could think about when I opened it was, I don't know if you've seen Kellyanne Maddox talking about this deck, but she was talking about the gold. And she made me laugh. And when I opened this deck, all I could think about was Kellyanne Maddox talking about the gold. So it is a very blingy deck. And this, I think, is slightly bigger than the standard deck that's available from Lo Scarabeo. So this whole tarot magazine thing is in conjunction with Lo Scarabeo. So all the decks that are included are Lo Scarabeo decks. So the Golden Tarot Art Nouveau, Golden Art Nouveau Tarot, these are slightly bigger than a standard tarot card. Let me find something to compare it to for you. So yeah, they're a bit bigger. So it's kind of like a nice version, and I guess it's an exclusive size version, you know, for this magazine. So they're very blingy. Ooh. Covered in gold foiling, which is really nice. And some of the cards I really like that High Priestess is gorgeous. The Empress is okay. But most of them, I think the reason I never really bought this deck is most of the cards they're nice, they're okay, but they don't really blow me away as they're just sort of, it's a Rider-Waite-Smith interpretation and the art is nice and it's very gold, which is fun. But it doesn't blow me away in terms of the concept of the art. So the idea is that they have included the major arcana with the first issue, and then you get one card per issue until you build up to the full deck. Like, oh, that death card's pretty strong, isn't it? Like, it really animates those figures from the Rider-Waite-Smith death card. The perspective is great. I really do think that's an effective card. It's a very white deck, the Art Nouveau, Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. They could have introduced some diversity pretty easily, I think, because they're not using art from the period even. It's just, you know, it's been drawn by a modern artist. But anyway, this is pretty. The cardstock is bendy, like it's pretty thin, flexible. So I think if I really wanted this deck, I would buy the deck. I wouldn't wait for 78-ish. I wouldn't wait for all the issues of the Total Tarot magazine to get the deck. I think I would just buy the smaller deck. I'm sure the other version has different cardstock too. The aces are lovely. I mean, like, there's the first two aces with like that Ace of Cups. So I have the majors and two aces of the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. I've been thinking one thing I would quite like to do with this is to cover a binder, like a ring binder for tarot study materials. Cover a binder with the cards, like paste them on and cover it with contact paper or something like that. Thought that might be nice, a craft project to use this for. I'm very unlikely to use a majors only deck, and as I say, if I wanted that deck, I'd probably just buy the full deck. But yeah, so this came with the first issue, and I think because it came with the magazine, I wouldn't feel less precious about using it for a craft project. So that's very cool to have, but as I say, I don't know if I would collect the whole thing over all the issues. And then the other deck that I've got through having this magazine is what they're calling the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot. Now, this is not the same as the Radiant Wise Spirit that you buy in like on its own. Those cards are larger and I believe they are glossy as well. So this is a special edition that came with the magazine, and you got half with issue 2 and half with issue 3. So this is sort of standard tarot size bordered Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And I believe if Simon at the Hermit's Cave was saying that this actually is the Pamela Coleman Smith RWS that was issued out by Lo Scarabeo, that was originally christened the Dirty Pam by the lovely Kelly Bear. And that was a deck that I'd really wanted, but when I saw the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot, which is supposed to be the same, I didn't really like the cards on that. And Simon was saying that this is pretty much exactly that Dirty Pam deck that everybody had been looking for. So I was excited that by buying the second and third issues of this magazine, I was able to get it. So the coloration in this is lovely. The line work is quite thick compared to, say, my Blushing Fool or even the Centennial. But the images are exactly the images that you know and love, or either know and love or know and hate from the Rider-Waite. And they've just been recolored with this kind of slightly murky, darker, slightly more vibrant color scheme. Now, what's interesting in the little magazine that goes with this, they call it, like they say, that Pamela Coleman Smith designed the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot for Arthur Waite in 1909. Like they don't actually acknowledge, they mention that it has another name, that it's normally known as the Rider-Waite or the Rider-Waite Smith or the RWS. But of course that deck is held in copyright by US Games, so this is their version of that. So I just thought it was interesting the way they talked about it, as if like this deck is always known as the Radiant Wise Spirit, which of course it's not. But I like this version of the deck, and the coloration is lovely. If anything, I kind of prefer this coloration to the Centennial, I think. I now have, I'm surprised to say, 4 versions of the Rider-Waite Smith, because I now have this one. I have the Centennial, which is the first one that I got. I have a Blushing Fool vintage deck. And I have my new Tarot Ascaliga, which is a Rider-Waite yellow box but in Irish. So maybe one day I will do a comparison video of all of those. So anyway, you get the idea. You know this deck pretty much. I'll not keep going and show all of them because the video will end up being really long. But it is exactly the Rider-Waite with that Rider-Waite Smith with this Radiant Wise Spirit Dirty Palm coloration. So that's fun to have. And the cardstock is, it seems the same as that golden Art Nouveau, but because the cards are slightly smaller, it's not as obviously bendy. I imagine it'll riffle shuffle nicely. It's really slidey, which is nice, and it's kind of like that silk finish where it's, you can see it catches the light a little bit, but it's basically matte. So this is a nice deck, and it comes in that sort of special, they send you this flat packed, so it's you can clearly see it's from the magazine series, and that was free with issues 2 and 3. So that I will definitely keep as a deck, and I'm sure use as a deck, and it's a nice item to have. With issue 3, I also got this tarot bag, which is for the Golden Art Nouveau tarot, and it has Temperance on it, which is lovely because Temperance is one of my favorite cards. So I have 1 or 2 larger decks that are looking for a home, so this will be the home of something, but not that specific deck, I don't think. So I'll have to think about what to do with it. It's kind of like I don't know what the fabric is. I mean, it's kind of, it feels kind of flammable. Do you know what I mean? Like the fabric. But there's no label. I was going to try to tell you what type of fabric it is, but it doesn't say. But it's got a nice picture on it, and I'm sure I'll get some good use out of that. And then also with the second and third issues, it came with these little Deck in Detail magazine lids, which I will keep as I'm keeping the deck, because this is kind of like your little white book. So it goes through all the cards, and it has like the detailed meanings of each card. So you've got your card, the upright and reversed meanings, a little bit of description of the card. So again, you know, it's basic. It'd be great for beginners, I think, but it's you know, it's basically a little white book, but it's a A4 glossy magazine instead. So if anybody is interested in the broader series, this is sort of what it is. This is the introductory magazine for it. That the magazine series will basically have half a deck with each issue, and there are a bunch of collectible decks with it, which are going to build up into this little tarot library. So which is one of the things I was thinking about this is, I think as a brand new tarot reader, the magazines are great, and you've got the Rider-Waite Smith the Radiant White Spirit edition coming out with that first, second and third issues. So to me, the magazines and that deck are kind of what you would need to get started. The idea that it comes with a new deck every 2 issues, to me, is a bit overwhelming for a beginner tarot reader. I certainly would have found it overwhelming at the start, but a deck collector who's more established as a tarot reader would probably love, getting the new deck every 2 issues. So I feel like the magazine content is pitched a little basic for a collector, but yet a newbie who would maybe appreciate the magazine content might find the decks a bit much. So I think that's an interesting decision they've made with the series. But certainly, I guess they're trying to appeal to collectors and people who are new to tarot. So these are some of the decks that you get with it, like the Thelema Tarot is with issues 4 and 5. A deck I'd never heard of, the Harmonious Tarot, is coming out with issues 6 and 7. There's a Marseille with issues 8 and 9, and so on. So I might pick up another couple of issues down the line if they're still being stocked in my local supermarket and they're doing a deck that I've always sort of kind of had my eye on, because £14 for the deck is not a huge amount. Although I'd probably have a look and see how much the deck was available for before I made that decision. These, I think, are going to all be bordered smaller, like standard tarot card size. Like, for example, there's the Vice Versa Tarot, which I believe is borderless normally, and here it has like a border, so it's maybe a special edition for the magazine. So it comes with different I don't know how long it's going to go on for. I'm assuming long enough. If you're getting 1 card a week of the Golden Art Nouveau, it's going to have to go long enough to go through the whole minor arcana of that. So and then it sort of breaks down the layout of the magazine. And then there's, if you subscribe, you get a bunch of other stuff, like you get a ring binder for all your magazines and some candles and a little tarot journal and another pouch and stuff. And I have to say, I looked at that initially and was like, ooh, look at all the goodies. Maybe I should subscribe. And then I realized that this year, I just don't want, I'm trying not to buy more stuff than I need. And I had come to the realization when I did my deck collection at the end of 2021 that I have a lot of decks, a lot that aren't being used. You can see in my videos that I did a video on all the decks I didn't use in 2021 and then all the decks that I did for both tarot and oracle. So, I've got a lot of lovely things to work with. I'm trying not to get too much extra new stuff. And then here I've bought these 3 magazines and I've got 1 and a bit new decks, which is great. But I don't know if I want to be doing that every fortnight, like adding more decks to my collection. Storage is always a factor. And then just consumption and buying more than I need is also a factor. So those are some things that I have been bearing in mind. So I reckon my decision, I think, with this is going to be, I might buy some more issues if there's a deck with them that I particularly want. But as for now, I think I'll be passing on the magazines to a friend who's a beginner. I'm going to be keeping the Radiant White Spirit, and I might be crafting with the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. So if I do something with that, I'll let you know. But thanks for watching. And if you have any thoughts on this series, it'd be good to have a wee chat with you in the comments. Are you buying it? Are you wishing you could? Are you wishing you could? I'm looking with curiosity at some of these images going, ooh, I wonder what deck that is. That looks pretty. But yeah, these are all mass market low scarabeo decks that are available anyway. So there's no rush on getting them or pressure to get them only through the magazine. Okay, so gosh, that ended up being longer than I expected. But thanks for watching this, not a peek at, but I guess a deep dive into the Total Tarot magazine series. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.